Hello and welcome.
Alright.
We will not be visiting castles or kingdoms. We are traveling much deeper into the past, to a time before writing, before cities, before the wheel. We are journeying back to the Great Ice Age, a world of immense beasts and endless skies. Here in this ancient world we will follow a young man. His story is not one of hunting or of war. It is a story of creation. A story of a descent into darkness to leave a mark of enduring light. So find a comfortable position.
Allow your breathing to become slow and regular.
There is nothing else you need to do. Simply listen and let the story guide you into rest. Our story begins not in a cold stone bedchamber, but in a shelter of mammoth bones and reindeer hides. Some 17,000 years ago, this is the Upper Paleolithic, a time when great sheets of ice still cover much of the world. We are in a river valley in the region that will one day be called southern France, and we are following a young man named Kale. The world outside the shelter is vast, cold, and swept by a biting wind that carries the scent of pine and damp earth. Inside, however, there is the warmth and relative safety of the clan. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke from the central hearth, the aroma of roasting bison meat, and the faint, dusty scent of dry hides and human life. Kale awakens not to a sudden sound, but to a subtle shift in the light. The thick, translucent hide that covers the entrance to the shelter has begun to glow with the pale gray light of dawn. He lies for a moment on his bed of soft furs and moss, listening to the familiar sounds of his world coming to life. He can hear the soft breathing of his family sleeping around him, the distant crackle of the ever-burning central fire being tended by the night's watchman, and the mournful howl of a wolf far away across the steppe. He rises slowly, his movements careful and quiet, so as not to disturb the others. He is a young man, perhaps 18 winters old, lean and strong, but his hands are not calloused and scarred like those of the clan's great hunters. His fingers are long and slender, often stained with the red and yellow pigments of the earth. His role is different. He pulls on his tunic and trousers, stitched from soft, supple reindeer skin, and cinches them with a leather belt. He slips his feet into fur-lined boots and emerges from the shelter into the cold morning air. The encampment is a small collection of similar structures, huddled together for warmth and protection. Their mammoth tusk frames like the skeletons of great beasts. The sky above is a canvas of soft pink and gray, and his breath plumes in the frigid air. Other figures are beginning to stir, moving with the quiet purpose of long habit. There is no wasted energy here. Survival depends on the careful conservation of warmth and strength. Kale does not join the group of hunters gathering their long spears tipped with razor-sharp flint. He does not go to the riverbank with the fishermen. Nor does he join the flint knappers whose rhythmic chipping provides a constant percussion to the camp's life. Instead, he goes to the shelter of the old shaman, a man named Burrow. Burrow is ancient, his face a road map of wrinkles, his eyes clouded with cataracts, but still sharp with an inner sight. He is the keeper of the clan's stories, its rituals, and its connection to the vast and unseen world of the spirits. And Kale is his apprentice, the one chosen to learn the sacred art of the caves. Burrow is already awake, chanting softly by his own small fire. He looks up as Kale enters, and without a word he hands him a leather pouch containing a piece of dried meat and some rendered fat. Today's the day. A new hunt has been successful, the spirits are favorable, and the great bull has appeared to Burrow in a dream. It is time to give the spirit a new home on the stone walls, deep within the earth. Kel's task for the day is clear. He must gather the colors, the sacred substances that will give the spirit its form. He sets out from the camp alone, carrying a sturdy hide bag and a digging tool made from the sharpened shoulder blade of a reindeer. His journey is a long, solitary walk across the vast, rolling tundra. The landscape is not one of lush forests, but of immense open grasslands dotted with hardy shrubs and sparse groves of birch and pine. In the distance, he can see a herd of wild horses, their shaggy coats the color of the dry grass. A flight of snow geese passes high overhead, their calls echoing in the wide, empty sky. Kale moves with a deep and intimate knowledge of this land. He is not a hunter, but he is a peerless observer. He knows the shape of every rock, the course of every stream, and the places where the earth itself holds the colors of life. His first destination is a cliff face several miles from the camp, where a stream has cut through the earth, exposing a deep vein of rich red clay. This is the ochre, the blood of the earth, the most sacred and powerful of all the pigments. He finds the familiar spot and begins to dig, his tools scraping against the hard, cold ground. He is careful and selective, choosing only the deepest, most vibrant lumps of the heavy, iron-rich clay. He breaks them open to check their color, a deep, satisfying red that reminds him of a fresh kill. He wraps these precious lumps in leaves and places them carefully in his bag. Nearby, he finds a smaller deposit of yellow ochre, a bright, sunny color that will be used for highlights and for the hides of the horses and deer. His next task is to find the black. For this, he must travel to a dry riverbed, a place of smooth, gray stones and bleached animal bones. He walks with his eyes cast downwards, searching not for a clay, but for hard, dark nodules of rock. He is looking for manganese dioxide, a stone that when ground produces a deep, velvety, and permanent black. It is rarer than the ochre, and finding a good source is a mark of skill. After a long search, he finds a handful of the heavy, dark stones, their surfaces dull in the pale light. He strikes one against another, and a streak of pure black powder appears. He nods in satisfaction and adds them to his bag. He has the three primary colors: red for blood and life, black for darkness and spirit, and yellow for the sun and the grasslands. With these, he can create any of the great beasts. The sun is past its zenith when Kale begins his journey back to the encampment. As he walks, he gathers the other necessary components. From a slain bison left by a hunting party, he carves away a large piece of the hard white fat from around the kidneys. This will be rendered down to become the binder, the substance that will turn the powdered earth into liquid paint and make it adhere to the cave wall. He collects the long, stiff hairs from the tail of a wild horse caught in a thorny bush and the delicate feathers of a ptarmigan. These will be tied to twigs to make his brushes. He finds a large, flat stone with a natural depression that will serve as his grinding slab, and a smooth, rounded river stone that will be his pestle. The final pieces of his sacred toolkit are a pair of hollow bird bones, which he will use as primitive airbrushes to blow the powdered pigment onto the stone. By the time he sees the familiar plume of smoke from the camp's central fire in the distance, his bag is heavy with the raw materials of creation. His day in the world of light is over. Soon, his work in the world of darkness will begin. As Kale returns to the encampment, the sun is a low, orange disk on the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows across the frozen grasslands. The air has grown colder, the wind sharper, but the sight of the familiar shelters and the warm glow of the central fire is a welcome comfort. The hunters have returned, and the sounds of the camp have changed from the quiet industry of the daytime to the more communal bustle of the evening. There is the sound of voices, the laughter of children, and the smell of cooking fires mingling with the scent of wood smoke and pine. The clan gathers for the evening meal, sharing the bounty of the day's hunt, their lives woven together by the simple, powerful rhythms of survival and community. Kale, however, does not immediately join the others. His work for the day is not yet finished. He finds a quiet, sheltered spot near the fire of the shaman burrow and carefully unloads the contents of his heavy bag. He lays his materials out on a clean animal hide, the deep red and bright yellow lumps of ochre, the dark nodules of manganese, the slab of white bison fat, the horsehair, feathers, and hollow bones. This is not just a collection of objects from the landscape. It is a palette of raw potential, the physical substance of a sacred act. Under the watchful eye of the old shaman, Kale begins the slow, methodical process of transforming these raw materials into paint. This is a ritual in itself, a meditation that requires patience, skill, and a deep, focused intention. He begins with the red ochre. Placing a single heavy lump onto his flat grinding stone, he takes the smooth river stone in his hand and begins to crush it. The first sounds are sharp and cracking as the lump breaks apart. Then, as the pieces get smaller, the sound changes to a soft, rhythmic, gritty whisper of stone against stone. He works with a steady, circular motion, his shoulders and back moving in a rhythm he has practiced for years. A fine, incredibly vibrant red dust begins to bloom from beneath the grinding stone, so fine that the slightest breeze makes it dance in the firelight. He works until the powder is as soft and silky as pollen, with no trace of grit remaining. He then carefully scrapes the precious powder into a hollowed-out stone bowl. Repeats this process for the yellow ochre, and then for the hard black manganese, each color kept separate, each powder a pool of pure, concentrated essence. While Kale grinds the pigments, Burrow, the shaman, tends to the binder. He has placed the slab of bison fat into a carved stone bowl, which he sets carefully on the hot embers at the edge of the fire. He does not let it get too hot. The goal is not to cook it, but to render it slowly, to gently melt the hard white fat into a clear, golden, precious liquid. The smell of the melting fat is rich and savory, a scent of life and sustenance. This clear oil will be the lifeblood of the paint, the medium that will allow the powdered earth to cling to the stone walls of the cave, to endure in the eternal darkness for generations to come. Once the pigments are ground and the fat is rendered, Kale turns his attention to his tools. He takes the long, coarse hairs he collected from the horse's tail, and using a thin, strong thread of sinew, he binds them tightly to the end of a slender birch twig. He trims the end to create a firm, even brush. He makes several of these, in different sizes, for lines of varying thickness. For a different texture, he chews the end of another, softer twig until the fibers separate and fray, creating a rough, mop-like brush that will be used for filling in large areas of color. He examines the hollow bird bones, ensuring they are clean and clear, ready to be used to blow the fine pigment dust onto the cave wall. Each tool is simple, made from the materials of the world around him, but in his hands, they are instruments of creation. Finally, Kale is ready to mix his paints. He scoops a small amount of the red ochre powder onto his palette, the clean shoulder blade of a reindeer. Then, using a piece of bone as a spatula, he adds a few drops of the warm, liquid bison fat. He begins to mix, folding the powder and the oil together. The transformation is immediate and magical. The dry, dusty powder becomes a thick, lustrous, and vibrant paste, the color of fresh blood. It clings to the bone palate, a living substance, ready to be applied. He does this for each color, creating small pools of red, yellow, and black paint. He tests each one on a spare stone, drawing a line, checking its consistency, adding a little more oil or a little more powder until it is perfect. Burrow watches this entire process in silence, his ancient eyes lit by the fire. He is not just watching for technical skill. He is observing Kel's spirit, his focus, his reverence for the materials. When Cale is finished, Burrow nods slowly. He takes a pinch of the red powder on his finger and draws a small, circular symbol on Kel's forehead. A blessing. Then, in a low, raspy voice, he begins to speak. He tells Cale of his dream. He describes the spirit of a great bull, larger and older than any aurochs the hunters have ever seen. Speaks of its immense curved horns, its powerful shoulders, and the wisdom in its ancient eyes. This is not just an animal, Burrow explains, but a guardian, a powerful spirit of the herd. The clan has taken many bison in the last moon, and the spirit must be honored. A home must be made for it in the great stone womb of the earth. A place where its power can reside and continue to provide for the clan. Kel's painting will not be a picture of a bull. It will be an invitation, a doorway for the spirit to enter the rock. The story finishes, and a respectful silence hangs in the air. Cale understands the weight of his task. He gathers the prepared paints, the brushes, and the hollow bones. His final preparation is for his light. He takes a shallow, beautifully carved sandstone lamp, a treasured object passed down through generations of painters. He fills its reservoir with the last of the rendered fat and carefully arranges a wick made of dried moss and juniper bark. He lights the wick from the shaman's fire, sputters for a moment, and then catches, casting a small, steady, golden flame. This small light will be his only sun, his only guide in the profound blackness of the cave. He eats his meal in quiet contemplation, feeling the warmth of the fire on his skin, knowing that soon he will leave all warmth and all light behind as he begins his pilgrimage into the sacred dark. The deep stillness of the night has settled over the encampment. The great central fire has been banked, its embers glowing a deep, hypnotic red in the darkness. The sounds of the clan have faded into the soft, rhythmic breathing of sleep. This is the time of spirits, the time of true darkness, and it is the time for Cale to begin his journey. He rises from his place by the shaman's fire, his movements fluid and silent in the cold air, gathers his sacred tools. The stone bowls of rich dark paint, the carefully crafted brushes, the hollow bones, and the precious life-giving lamp. He wraps them securely in a soft hide bag which he slings over his shoulder. Burrow, the shaman, is still awake, a motionless shadow by the fire. He does not speak, but as Cale passes, he raises a hand in a gesture of blessing and farewell. It is a solitary mission, a pilgrimage that Cale must undertake alone. He slips out of the camp, a ghost moving between the banana hide shelters. Once he is beyond the perimeter, the vast open landscape of the Ice Age night envelops him. The moon is a slender silver sliver in a sky of infinite ink-black clarity. The stars are not the dim points of light we see in our modern light-polluted world. They are a brilliant, blazing river of diamonds, so bright they seem to have depth and texture. Kale looks up and sees the familiar patterns his people have traced for generations: the great reindeer, the celestial bison, the spirit fox. They are his guides and his silent companions. The air is painfully cold, and the ground crunches under his fur-lined boots with a sound that seems impossibly loud in the profound silence. His breath smokes in front of his face, a fleeting white ghost in the starlight. His path is not random. It is a route he has walked in his mind 100 times, and in person a few precious times with Burrow. He navigates not by landmarks that are visible in the daylight, but by the silhouette of the land against the star-dusted sky. He follows the dark, looming shape of a familiar ridge, its edge serrated with the forms of sparse, wind-swept pines. He descends into a valley where the air grows colder and a low mist clings to the ground. He can hear the murmur of a half-frozen river, its water flowing darkly under sheets of ice. He knows this land not as a map, but as a living entity, its features as familiar to him as the faces of his own clan. After walking for what seems like an age, he arrives at his destination. It is not a grand gaping cavern, but a small, almost unnoticeable fissure at the base of a limestone cliff face, partially hidden by a curtain of frozen ivy. This is the entrance, the threshold between the worlds. For the uninitiated, it is nothing but a crack in the rock. For Kale, it is the mouth of the Earth Mother, the gateway to the sacred, subterranean realm of the spirits. He stands before it for a long moment, the cold wind at his back. He feels the immense, silent weight of the rock above and below him. He whispers a quiet prayer to the spirits of the cave, asking for safe passage and for their favor in his sacred work. Then, taking a deep breath of the sharp, cold outside air, he ducks his head and squeezes through the narrow opening, leaving the world of starlight and open sky behind. The change is instantaneous and absolute. The sound of the wind is gone, replaced by a silence so profound it seems to have a physical presence. The air is still, motionless, and heavy with the smell of damp earth, cold stone, and a deep, ancient minerality. It is a cold that is different from the outside world, a deep, penetrating cold that seems to emanate from the very bones of the earth. He is in a small, cramped antechamber. He carefully sets down his bag and unwraps his lamp, using a piece of flint and a nodule of iron pyrite. He strikes a spark into a small pouch of dry tinder. A tiny ember glows. He nurtures it gently, blowing on it until a small flame appears, which he then uses to light the moss and juniper wick of his stone lamp. A small, warm, golden light pushes back against an ocean of absolute blackness. The darkness in the cave is unlike the darkness of the night outside. It is a primal, eternal darkness, a blackness that has never known the sun. The small flame of his lamp is a fragile, defiant presence in the face of this immense void. The light catches on the rock formations around him, making the walls glitter with calcite crystals. The shadows leap and dance, transforming familiar shapes into monstrous moving figures. Every drip of water from the ceiling, echoing in the vast silence, sounds like a footstep. He gathers his bag and begins his journey inward. The first passages are relatively wide, and the floor is worn smooth by the passage of men and animals over countless generations. This is the part of the cave his people sometimes use for shelter from the worst of the winter storms. He can see the soot-blackened ceiling from ancient fires and the scattered bones from long-ago meals. but his destination lies far deeper. He continues on, his small light bobbing before him, his shadow a giant, distorted figure dancing on the walls behind. The path begins to narrow. The air grows stiller, heavier. The simple act of breathing seems loud. He is moving deeper now, beyond the realm of man, into the realm of the spirits. His senses, deprived of the familiar sights and sounds of the world above, become preternaturally sharp. He can smell the subtle differences in the air as he passes a side tunnel. And he can feel the texture of the rock wall with his free hand. It's rough. Solid permanence, a comforting guide in the disorienting dark. He feels the slight changes in the slope of the floor beneath his feet. He is walking a path of memory and sensation, a route mapped not by sight, but by a deep instinctual connection to this sacred space. He pauses at a junction of two tunnels, holding his lamp high. He has reached the first true landmark of the inner sanctum. He is still far from his final destination, but he has successfully navigated the threshold. He has left the world above behind and has now fully entered the great stone womb of the earth. Here he rests, gathering his resolve for the even more difficult passages that lie ahead. Kale remains motionless for a long time at the junction of the tunnels, his small lamp held high. The pool of golden light it casts seems fragile, almost insignificant against the immense patient darkness that surrounds him. He is now in the true beginning of the sacred path, the part of the cave that is reserved for the initiated, for those who come to commune with the spirits. The air here is different, colder and purer, carrying no scent of the world above. He takes a slow, steadying breath, the silence of the cave pressing in on him, and then he makes his choice. Turning into a passage that is smaller and more intimidating than the one he has been following, the real journey has just begun. The floor of this new tunnel slopes steeply downwards, and the rock walls begin to close in. The passage, once wide enough for two men to walk abreast, soon narrows to the width of his shoulders. He has to turn sideways, holding his lamp carefully in front of him, a hide bag containing his precious paints. He now has to push ahead of him along the floor. The walls are smooth here, polished by the passage of water in some long-forgotten age, and they feel like cold, slick skin against his clothes. He can feel the immense silent weight of the mountain above him, a pressure that is both physical and spiritual. This is no longer simply walking. It is a deliberate act of entering the very bones of the earth. Ahead of him, the passage appears to end. The beam of his lamp reveals not a wall, but a crack, a narrow vertical fissure in the rock that seems impossibly small. This is the test burrow the shaman had spoken of, a passage known to his people as the squeeze or the stone birth canal. Kel's heart beats a little faster. He knows he must pass through it to reach the great painting chambers. He remembers Bohr's teaching. The cave tests those who enter. He must show no fear. He must make himself small and humble to be accepted. Carefully pushes his bag of paints and tools through the opening first, hearing it scrape and then fall softly on the other side. Then he takes a deep breath, holds his lamp in one outstretched hand, and turns his body, leading with his shoulder, into the tight embrace of the rock. The sensation is immediately overwhelming. The cold stone presses against his chest and back simultaneously. He has to exhale fully, emptying his lungs to make his body narrow enough to move. He shuffles forward, inch by painful inch, his cheek pressed against the damp, cold limestone. The only sounds are his own grunts of effort, his ragged breathing, and the scraping of his leather tunic against the rock, all of it amplified and thrown back at him by the claustrophobic space. His lamp held in front of him illuminates only a few inches of rock, its light seeming to be swallowed by the oppressive closeness. For a terrifying moment, he feels a surge of panic. The primal fear of being trapped, of being held fast in the unyielding grip of the stone. He closes his eyes, pictures the great bull from Boar's dream, and focuses on his purpose. He is not being crushed. He is being born into the spirit world. He pushes forward, and with a final scraping effort, his body comes free, and he tumbles out of the squeeze into a wider space beyond. He lies on the floor for a moment, his heart pounding, his body slick with a mixture of sweat and cave damp. He has passed the test. He sits up and takes stock of his new surroundings. He has emerged into a space that is different yet again. The passage opens into a vast, vaulted chamber, so large that the light from his small lamp cannot find the walls or the ceiling. The darkness here is not tight and oppressive, but immense and cavernous, and it is filled with sound. Single drop of water, falling from the unseen ceiling high above, lands on the floor with a clear musical echo that seems to repeat and rebound from a dozen different directions at once. The chamber is alive with acoustics. Cale rises to his feet, a sense of awe washing over him. Burrow had taught him that this chamber was the cave's voice. He hums a low, single note. The note is caught by the chamber and transformed into a chorus, a chord that seems to hang in the air long after he has fallen silent. He walks slowly into the chamber and finds a row of stalactites, long and thin like stone icicles, hanging from a low ledge. He gently taps one with the knuckle of his finger. Clear bell-like tone rings out, pure and perfect, echoing through the vast space. These are the cave's chimes, the lithophone of the ancestors. He knows that this is part of the ritual, a way to awaken the spirits of the place and announce his presence. He plays a simple rhythmic pattern, his notes of prayer offered to the immense listening darkness. As he moves through this echoing chamber, his path is guided by the signs left by those who came before him. On the walls, revealed by the sweeping beam of his lamp, are the markings of the ancestors. Here, a series of deep red dots arranged in a line leading towards a side passage. There, a simple but powerful hand stencil, a ghostly negative image of a human hand, surrounded by a halo of black pigment, a signature from a painter who made this same journey hundreds, perhaps thousands of years before Cale was born. He reaches out and places his own hand against the cold stone, his fingers fitting perfectly into the empty space of the stencil. In that moment, he feels a profound connection, a collapse of time. He is not alone. He is the last in a long, unbroken line, a keeper of a sacred tradition. And the spirits of all the painters who came before are with him now, their hands on his shoulder. Following these ancient signs, he finds his way to the far side of the great chamber. His journey is not over. He can hear a new sound now, a sound that is not an echo but a constant, deep, rushing murmur. It is the sound of moving water. The passage continues, and it leads him to the edge of a body of water that fills the cave from wall to wall. It is a subterranean river, its surface as black and still as polished jet, betraying the swift, cold current that moves beneath. The only way forward is through it. He takes a moment to secure his bag of paints, hoisting it high onto his shoulder. He holds his precious lamp in his other hand, lifting it as high as he can. He takes a breath and steps into the water. The cold is a shocking, violent gasp that steals his breath. It is a cold far deeper than any winter ice, a cold from the very heart of the mountain. It bites at his legs and waist, and he has to fight to keep his footing on the slick, uneven rocks of the riverbed. The water pushes against him, a powerful, invisible force trying to drag him down into the blackness. He moves slowly, deliberately, his eyes fixed on the far bank, his arm trembling from the effort of holding the lamp aloft. He is halfway across when his foot slips. For a heart-stopping second, he stumbles, and the lamp dips dangerously close to the water. But he regains his balance, his resolve hardened by the shock. He pushes on, and finally he feels the ground begin to slope upwards. He emerges on the other side, shivering, his clothes soaked. But with the lamp's flame still burning, a tiny, triumphant star in the immense silent dark. Shivering violently, Cale stands on the far bank of the subterranean river, the sound of his own chattering teeth loud in the echoing silence. The icy water streams from his leather clothes, forming a dark pool around his feet. The cold is a deep, aching presence in his bones, a profound shock to his system. But the flame of his lamp, which he so carefully protected, still burns. It is a small, steady point of warmth and light in the immense cold dark, and he draws a deep sense of strength from its survival. He knows that the most dangerous parts of the physical journey are now behind him. The rest of the path is a matter of spirit and endurance. He takes a moment not to rest, but to refocus his intention. Pushing the feeling of the biting cold from the forefront of his mind and replacing it with the image of the great bull from Burroughs' dream, he turns from the river and enters the next passage. The character of the cave changes once more. The tunnel begins to climb steeply upwards, and the walls are no longer smooth, but rough and crystalline. They are covered in a thick, sparkling layer of calcite, a cave popcorn formation that glitters and flashes in the lamplight, as if the walls themselves were encrusted with millions of tiny diamonds. The effect is breathtaking. It is as if he has passed through the waters of the underworld and is now ascending into a celestial, star-filled chamber. The air here is incredibly still and pure, and as he climbs, a new warmth begins to seep back into his limbs, the warmth of his own exertion. The climb is long and arduous. In some places, he has to use both hands to pull himself up over ledges of flowstone, forcing him to carefully place his precious lamp on a secure spot before ascending. At one point, he passes a magnificent formation, a vast, curtain-like stalactite that hangs from the ceiling, its edges translucent and banded with shades of red and white from the minerals in the rock. Generations of his people have seen this formation, and it has a name in their stories: the frozen waterfall. He pauses before it, as all the painters before him have done, and touches its cold, smooth surface in a gesture of respect for the timeless, slow artistry of the earth itself. As he climbs higher, he begins to notice something else. Faint, dark smudges appear on the walls, and then more clearly, the unmistakable shapes of animals. These are not the great finished masterpieces he is heading towards. They are sketches, preparatory drawings, and simple engravings, scratched into the soft calcite with a piece of sharp flint. He sees the powerful, curved back of a bison, the delicate head of an ibex, a series of lines that represent the tangled antlers of a great stag. This is the painter's gallery, the place where apprentices like him have practiced their art for centuries, where ideas were tested and skills were honed before being brought to the main sanctuary walls. He sees some marks he recognizes from Burroughs' teaching, the signature of a great painter from his grandfather's time. He feels a deep sense of humility and connection, walking through this silent school of masters. Finally, the upward climb levels out. He stands at the entrance to a low, wide tunnel. He knows this is the final approach. He can feel it. The air itself seems to vibrate with a different energy here, a sense of imminence and power. The passage is long, and he must walk stooped over, his head almost touching the ceiling. The rock here is different, a purer, paler shade of limestone, and it is almost perfectly smooth. It is as if the cave itself has prepared the way, offering up its finest surfaces for the work to come. He walks for what feels like a long time down this low passage, the anticipation building with every step. Then he sees it, change in the quality of the darkness ahead. The tunnel opens up, and the small, confined space gives way to a vast, magnificent chamber. He steps out of the passage and stands upright, his breath catching in his throat. He has arrived. This is the sanctuary. It is an immense dome-like chamber, its ceiling soaring high into the darkness, its walls curving around him like a great protective embrace. The silence here is absolute, a sacred silence that seems to absorb all sound. It is a silence that feels ancient, alive, and filled with a potent, listening presence. This is the heart of the cave, the womb of the earth. The place where the veil between the world of flesh and the world of spirit is at its thinnest. Cale slowly raises his lamp, and the walls come alive. The chamber is a seamless, panoramic canvas of prehistoric art. Everywhere he looks, the undulating surfaces of the rock are covered with the most incredible and powerful images of animals he has ever seen. Great herds of horses, their bodies a soft, shaded yellow, seem to gallop across the ceiling. Line of immense, shaggy-maned bison, painted in deep, rich red, appear to stampede down one wall. Their forms skillfully using the natural bulges of the rock to give them a sense of weight and muscular power. A magnificent stag, its head thrown back, and it's vast. Complex antlers branching across a fissure in the rock, stands majestically in an alcove. A pair of reindeer face each other, their delicate legs and antlers rendered with a few perfect, confident strokes of black manganese. The animals are not static. In the single flickering light of his lamp, they seem to move. A horse's leg appears to kick. A bison's head seems to turn. The artists who came before him were masters of their craft, using the three-dimensional living surface of the cave to create an art that was not meant to be seen in the flat. Even light of day, but in the dynamic, dancing light of a fire or a stone lamp. Cale walks slowly around the chamber, his heart filled with a profound sense of awe and reverence. He is standing in the presence of greatness. He is not just in a cave. He is inside a masterpiece. He knows that his task is to add to this great living tapestry of spirit animals. He must find a space, a surface that calls to him, a place where the spirit of the great bull from Bohr's dream wishes to reside. He walks the perimeter of the chamber, his hand held just above the rock surface, not touching, but feeling for a connection. He is looking for a piece of the wall where the form of the bull is already suggested by the natural contours of the stone. He runs his eyes over the bulges and hollows, the cracks and fissures, searching for the powerful shoulder, the curve of a mighty horn, the bulk of a chest. After a long and patient search, he finds it. It is a large, smooth, pale section of the wall, dominated by a great curving bulge of rock that perfectly suggests the massive shoulder and hump of a bull. A small natural fissure marks the perfect line for the back. He knows with a certainty that comes from deep within him that this is the place. This is the canvas the cave has prepared for him. He has completed his long and perilous journey. He has passed the tests of darkness, cold, and fear. He has arrived at the sacred space, carrying the colors of the earth and the dream of his shaman. He carefully sets down his bag, unwraps his materials, and places his lamp on a nearby ledge, its steady light illuminating the chosen wall. The journey is over. The ritual is about to begin. With his materials carefully arranged on a clean hide cloth at the base of the wall, Cale does not immediately begin to paint. The final and most crucial stage of the journey is not one of physical movement, but of deep, silent contemplation. The act of creation he is about to undertake is not a simple matter of decoration. It is a profound spiritual transaction, and it cannot be rushed. He must first attune himself to the space, to the spirit of the rock, and to the powerful presence of the animal he has come to honor. He takes another of his stone lamps and finds a small niche for it on the opposite side of his chosen rock face, creating a second source of light. The interplay between the two flickering flames immediately changes his perception of the wall. New shadows appear, and the great bulge of rock that suggests the bull-esque shoulder seems to gain weight and dimension, its form shifting and breathing in the gentle crosslight. He sits before this natural canvas, his legs crossed, his back straight, and for a long time he simply looks. His eyes trace the contours of the stone, the subtle undulations, the hairline cracks, the variations in texture. He is not just looking at a blank surface. He is reading a landscape, searching for the spirit that already resides within. Burrow taught him that the painter does not create the animal from nothing. He merely helps it to emerge from the stone where it has always been sleeping. Cale reaches out and runs his fingers lightly over the surface, feeling the cool, smooth texture of the limestone. He can feel a subtle vibration in the rock, or perhaps it is just the echo of his own heartbeat in the profound silence. He closes his eyes and pictures the great bull from the dream, its immense power, its shaggy mane, the intelligence in its dark, ancient eyes. He holds this image in his mind, overlaying it onto the surface of the rock until the two merge, till the stone and the spirit are one. This meditative state is essential. He must clear his mind of all distractions, the memory of the biting cold of the river, the physical exhaustion of the journey, the lingering anxieties of the world above. His breathing becomes slow and deep, matching the slow, patient rhythm of the cave itself. The rhythm of a water drop falling every minute, of a stalactite growing by a fraction of a millimeter every century. He begins to hum a low, monotonous chant, the same simple, three-note pattern he had tested in the echoing chamber. Here in this sacred space, the notes do not echo. They are absorbed by the rock, by the immense silent presence that fills the sanctuary. The sound is not for his own ears, but for the spirits of the cave, a sign of his peaceful and respectful intention. He then undertakes the final practical preparation of the surface. He takes a piece of smooth sandstone and gently rubs a small area of the rock face, abrading the thin, crystalline layer of calcite to create a more porous surface that will better absorb the paint. The sound is a soft, sandy whisper. He then takes a piece of soft, damp moss and wipes the dust away, leaving a clean, pale, perfectly prepared patch of stone. He is not imposing his will on the cave, but working with it, preparing a space for the spirit to feel welcome. He lays out his pallets the smooth white shoulder blades of a reindeer. On one, he places a small mound of the black manganese powder. On another, the deep red ochre. He arranges his brushes, his blowing bones, his pots of rendered fat. Everything is placed in a precise and practiced order, so he will be able to find it in the low light without thinking. This meticulous arrangement is part of the ritual, a way of bringing order and intention to the act of creation. The sanctuary is his temple, the rock face is his altar, and these simple earthen materials are his sacred offerings. He is now ready. The long journey from the world of light and the slow meditative preparation in the world of darkness have brought him to this single point in time. He feels a profound sense of calm and clarity. The fear and exhaustion have fallen away, replaced by a current of focused creative energy. He is no longer just Kale, the boy from the encampment. He is an instrument, a conduit for the spirit of the great bull to manifest in the world. He is a bridge between his people and the immense mysterious power of the animal world that sustains them. He picks up his first tool. It is not a brush, but a simple, sharp-edged piece of black charcoal from his fire. This will be used to make the first crucial lines, the skeleton of the image upon which all the color and life will be built. He rises from his seated position and approaches the wall, the piece of charcoal held delicately in his fingers. He raises his hand, his eyes fixed on the great bulge of rock. For a final moment he hesitates, holding his breath in the sacred silence of the cave. Then, with a single, confident, and deeply reverent motion, his hand moves forward, and the charcoal touches the stone, leaving a faint, dark line. The ritual has begun. Spirit is coming. The first touch of charcoal on stone is an irreversible act, a commitment. The faint dark line that Kale draws is the beginning of a bridge between the world of dreams and the world of substance. The silence in the great cavern seems to deepen, as if the cave itself is holding its breath. Kale works not with hesitation, but with a focused and fluid grace. His movements economical and certain, is not inventing the bull, but revealing it. And the lines he draws are guided by a deep anatomical knowledge passed down from Burrow and from generations of painters before him. He knows the precise, powerful curve of an oryx's back, the massive slope of its shoulders, and the way the heavy head hangs from the thick, muscular neck. His arm moves in long, sweeping arcs, the charcoal whispering against the limestone. The sound is soft, a dry, sandy scratch that is the only noise in the vast chamber. With each stroke, a fine black dust drifts down from the wall, sparkling for a moment in the lamplight before disappearing. He is not sketching in the modern sense, with tentative light strokes. He is drawing with intent, each line a definitive statement. He uses the great natural bulge of the rock to form the massive, powerful hump of the bull's shoulder, making the animal seem to surge out of the wall with three-dimensional life. He traces the outline of the head, the short, powerful snout, and the thick, curved horns that are the animal's weapons in its crown. He works quickly but without haste, his body and the tool and the stone all moving in a practiced harmony. Within a short time, the entire outline is complete. A great ghostly skeleton of a bull, over 10 feet long, now resides on the wall, its form captured in the simple, elegant language of black lines. With the outline established, Kale sets down his piece of charcoal. The first part of the ritual is complete. He must give the spirit flesh. He turns to his palettes and picks up the one holding the deep, rich red ochre paint. The paste is thick and greasy, the color of wet clay and blood. He takes a pad of soft, dry moss in his other hand, dabs it into the paint, and turns back to the wall. He begins to apply the color to the bull's body, starting with the great expanse of the torso. His motions are different now, no longer the linear strokes of the charcoal, but broad, circular rubbing motions. He works the thick, oily paint into the porous surface of the limestone, his arm moving with a steady, rhythmic pulse. The effect is immediate and powerful. The ghostly outline is filled with a rich, vibrant, and earthy color. Bull gains weight, substance, and a sense of warm, living flesh. Kale is not simply coloring in a shape. He is painting with a deep understanding of form. He applies the paint more thickly on the back and shoulders, giving a sense of a thick, heavy hide. He uses a lighter touch on the underbelly, letting the pale color of the rock show through to create a natural highlight. The single red color, through his skillful application, creates a dozen different shades and textures, suggesting the play of light over the animal's massive form, the tension of muscle beneath the skin. Where he works his way across the great body, his world shrinking to the pool of light from his lamp. The feel of the moss in his hand and the emerging form of the great bull. When the body is filled with its base color, Kale moves on to one of the most sacred and mysterious techniques of his craft. He sets aside the moss pad and picks up one of the hollow bird bones. He then takes a pinch of dry, powdered black manganese and places it in his mouth. He adds a small sip of water from the skin he carries and mixes the water and powder with his tongue, creating a thin, liquid pigment. It is a strange, intimate act, mixing the color of the earth with his own living essence. He then places one end of the hollow bone to his lips, takes a deep breath, and aims the other end at the wall. He blows a sharp, controlled puff of air through the bone. A fine, dark mist of black pigment sprays onto the rock, creating a soft, almost ethereal line. This is the technique of the breath, the soul of the painting. He uses this primitive airbrush to create effects that are impossible with a brush alone. He blows a soft, dark shadow along the bull's belly, instantly giving the animal a profound sense of roundness and weight. He adds a soft black haze to the legs and hooves, making them seem to recede into the darkness of the cave floor, as if the great beast is emerging from the very ground. The technique allows for beautiful, subtle gradients of color, a softness that perfectly captures the texture of shaggy hair or the misty atmosphere of a dawn landscape. He then uses this same technique for a more personal and deeply symbolic act. He moves to a space on the wall just below the bull's chest. He places his left hand flat against the cold stone, his fingers spread wide. Then, with the blowing bone in his mouth, he sprays a dense cloud of black pigment all around the shape of his hand. When he pulls his hand away, a perfect, ghostly negative image remains. It is his signature, his mark, a permanent declaration that he was here, that he communed with this spirit. But it is more than that. It is an act of connection, a way of placing his own spirit, his own life force, onto the wall, alongside the great spirit of the bull, forever linking the hunter and the hunted, the man and the animal, in a single sacred image. With the main body of the bull now fleshed out and given depth, Cale turns to the final, intricate details that will give the animal its true life and personality. He sets aside the blowing bone and selects his finest brush, the one made from the long, stiff hairs of a horse's tail, capable of painting a fine, sharp line. He mixes a small amount of the black manganese paint on his palette, making it a little thinner than the red ochre. He dips the very tip of the brush into the black paint and turns to the bull's head. With immense concentration, he leans in close to the wall. He uses the brush to darken the horns, giving them a sharp, polished, and dangerous look. He paints the shaggy mane of the bull, not with a solid block of color, but with hundreds of fine individual strokes, creating the texture of thick, coarse hair, adds detail to the hooves and the tail. Finally, he comes to the most important part, the eye. He knows from Burrow that the eye is the window to the spirit. A bull can be perfectly painted, but if the eye is dead, the spirit will not inhabit the form. He takes a deep breath. With a single, small, and perfect touch of his brush, he places a small black dot in the bull's head. And in that instant, the creature comes alive. The eye seems to glint in the lamplight, intelligent and aware. It is no longer just a painting. Presence now looks out from the stone, a powerful, ancient consciousness. Cale has not just painted a bull, is opened a window between the worlds. The great bull is alive on the wall, its single, dark eye, a point of immense power and presence in the vast silent chamber. For a moment, Cale is captivated by his own creation, feeling the potent spirit of the animal radiating from the cold stone. But his work is not yet done. The dream vision Burrow described was not of a solitary animal, but of the great spirit of the herd, the source of the clan's life and sustenance. The bull must not be alone. It must be placed within a world of other spirits, part of the great flowing river of life that pulses through the rock. Cale knows he must now create the herd, the lesser spirits of horse and deer that move with the great power of the bull. He turns his attention to a large, smooth expanse of the wall next to the bull. He picks up his charcoal once again. His approach to the next animal is different. Where the bull was a study in immense static power, the horses must be figures of speed, grace, and fleeting movement. His lines are quicker now, more fluid and economical. With just a few perfectly placed curves, he captures the elegant arch of a horse's neck, the powerful line of its back, and the delicate grace of its legs. He does not draw one horse, but three, their forms overlapping, their legs a tangle of movement that creates a powerful illusion of a galloping herd. Their heads are small and fine, with pricked ears and wide alert eyes. They are the spirits of the wild steppe, creatures of wind and grass. Once the outlines are complete, he moves to his yellow ochre, uses a different technique for the horses than he did for the bull. He applies the yellow paint with a pad of soft, untanned leather, rubbing it onto the rock in swift, linear motions that follow the direction of the animals' bodies, enhancing the sense of forward momentum. The color is bright and vibrant, a splash of sunlight in the deep darkness of the cave. He leaves the bellies of the horses paler, using the natural color of the limestone to suggest a lighter, softer fur. He then returns to the blowing bone, this time using the black manganese powder to give the horses their shaggy manes and long flowing tails. He blows the pigment with a soft touch, creating a hazy, almost transparent effect, as if the manes and tails are made of smoke or shadow, dissolving into the air as the horses gallop past. The effect is dynamic and breathtakingly alive. The three horses seem to fly across the rock face, a river of golden yellow life flowing past the immense, dark, and rooted power of the great bull. As he paints the third horse, its hindquarters extend over a section of the wall where another image already exists. It is a much older painting, its colors faded to a faint, ghostly red. It is the delicate, graceful form of a doe, painted by an artist of his grandfather's generation, or perhaps even long before. Cale does not stop. He does not hesitate. He confidently paints the powerful legs of his new horse directly over the faded image of the doe. To a modern eye, this act might seem like vandalism, a disrespectful erasure of an older work of art. But for Cale and for the people of his time, the act is precisely the opposite. He is not destroying the older painting. He is renewing its power. The belief, as taught by Burrow, is that certain places on the cave wall are special. They are portals, thin spots in the veil between the worlds, places where the spirits can most easily emerge. The presence of the old painting is proof of this spot's power. By placing his new animal spirit here, he is not covering the old one, but layering his ritual on top of it. He is feeding the portal, adding the energy of his own creation to the accumulated spiritual power of the location. The DOZ spirit is not erased. It is joined by the horse's spirit, and the power of the place is made stronger. Its magic reactivated for Cale's generation. The wall is not a static canvas, but a living, breathing document, a sacred text upon which each generation of painters adds its own chapter, creating a rich and complex tapestry of overlapping time. His main figures are now complete. The great bull stands as the anchor, the heart of the composition, while the golden horses flow around it, bringing a sense of life and movement. But the panel is not yet finished. The final and most mysterious part of the ritual is to add the signs. All around the great animals in the sanctuary are not just other animals, but a host of abstract symbols lines, dots, grids, and geometric shapes. They are a form of language, a secret, symbolic code, whose full meaning is known only to the shamans and the painters.
Ow!
Cale takes the red ochre paint on his fingertip. Above the powerful back of the bull, he paints a series of 6 large red dots. He does not measure or hesitate. He places them with an instinctive sense of rightness. What they mean is a sacred secret. Perhaps they represent the 6 hunters who brought down the last great bison, honoring their skill. Perhaps they are the 6 most important stars in a winter constellation that was in the sky when Burrow had his dream. Or perhaps they are a prayer, a request to the spirit world for 6 more successful hunts. The meaning is fluid, known only in the context of the ritual. He then moves to the galloping horses. Near their heads, he uses a piece of charcoal to draw a strange, rectangular, grid-like symbol, a tectiform. It looks almost like a primitive hut or a trap. Its meaning is even more obscure. Is it a symbol of the clan's encampment, placing the horses in relation to the human world? Is it a representation of a spiritual snare, a way to capture the essence of the horse's speed and power for the Clan S hunters? Or is it something else entirely, a map of the spirit world? A symbol whose meaning has been passed down through generations, but whose origins are lost in the deep past. Cale does not need to know the logical explanation. He knows through his training that this is the correct sign to place here, that it completes the spiritual circuit of the image. He has finished. He sets down his tools and takes a step back, holding his lamp high to illuminate the entire panel. The scene is now a complex and deeply layered masterpiece. The powerful dark bowl forms the anchor, a symbol of strength and sustenance. The golden horses provide a sense of wild, untamed life and movement. The ghostly image of the older doe, visible through the legs of one of the horses, speaks of the deep passage of time and the connection to the ancestors. And the abstract signs, the red dots, and the black grid add a layer of secret, symbolic meaning. A human intelligence imposing its own mysterious order on the animal world. Kale feels a deep sense of satisfaction and completion. The frantic, creative energy has left him, replaced by a feeling of peaceful exhaustion. He has successfully navigated the darkness, performed the ritual, and given the spirits their new home. He has fulfilled his duty to his clan and to the spirit world. The images on the wall are now charged with power, and they will remain here in the silent. Eternal darkness, long after he is gone, a testament to the life and the faith of his people. The final mark has been made. The last dot of red ochre is in its place. A deep and profound silence settles over the great chamber, a silence that feels different from before. It is no longer just an empty silence. It is a silence filled with presence, with the potent, living energy of the newly created spirits on the wall. Kale takes a few steps back, his body aching with a deep and satisfying weariness. His hands are a mess of color, smeared with the red and yellow of the earth and the black of the manganese, a testament to his work. His shoulders and back ache from the long hours of reaching and painting, but he feels no pain. All he feels is a sense of profound peace and spiritual fulfillment, a quiet joy that hums deep within his bones. He stands for a long time, simply looking at his work. The single flame of his lamp dances and flickers, and in its unsteady light the animals seem to move. The great bull's chest seems to heave with a silent breath. The horse's legs seem to tremble with restrained energy, ready to gallop off the rock and into the darkness. He has done more than just paint a picture. He has opened a window. He has successfully channeled the dream vision of the shaman and given it a permanent home in the heart of the earth. He feels the approval of the spirits of the cave, a sense of rightness, feeling that the balance between his world and theirs has been restored and strengthened. He has done his duty. But the ritual is not yet complete. The act of creation must be closed with the same reverence with which it was begun. He turns to his materials, which lie scattered on the hide cloth at the base of the wall. He begins the slow, methodical process of cleaning and packing his sacred tools. He takes his pallets, the reindeer shoulder blades, and with a sharp piece of flint he carefully scrapes off the remaining paint. He does not wipe the leftover paint onto the floor or discard it carelessly. He gathers the thick, colored sludge into a single ball in his hand and walks to a deep, natural fissure in the wall, a small crack that leads into the unknown depths of the rock. He places the leftover paint inside as a final, humble offering to the cave itself, gift of color back to the earth from which it came. He then tends to his brushes. The delicate horsehair bristles are stiff with drying paint. He uses a bit of the remaining liquid fat to clean them, working the grease through the bristles to dissolve the pigment, then wiping them clean on a piece of soft moss. These brushes are precious. They are the extensions of his own fingers, and they must be cared for so they can be used again to give life to other spirits. He places them carefully into a protective leather roll. The hollow blowing bones are wiped clean, inside and out. The stone bowls that held the paint are scraped and wiped, until they are once again just simple, empty vessels. Each action is deliberate, unhurried, a part of a closing meditation. When all his tools are clean and packed away in his bag, Cale turns his attention to the light. He has kept several lamps burning to provide a steady, even light for his work. Now their purpose is fulfilled. He moves around the chamber, extinguishing them one by one. With each extinguished flame, the shadows in the great chamber deepen, and the darkness closes in. He blows out the second-to-last lamp, and now the vast, magnificent mural is visible only by the light of his single personal lamp, the one that guided him here. Seeing the paintings in this single, flickering light is a different experience. The details recede, and the powerful forms and movements of the animals become more pronounced. They seem to retreat back into the stone, their spirits becoming one with the rock. This is how they are meant to be, not as a bright public display, but as a secret, powerful presence in the eternal, living dark. This is how the spirits will reside here for all the generations to come. Before he turns to leave, Cale performs one final act of reverence. He stands before the center of the panel, before the powerful eye of the great bull, and he offers a quiet prayer of thanks. He thanks the spirit of the cave for allowing him safe passage. He thanks the spirits of the animals for revealing themselves to him and for allowing him to be their conduit. And he thanks the spirits of the ancestor painters whose hand stencils and faded images surround him, for guiding his own hand and for keeping the sacred tradition alive. He feels their presence in the deep silence, a quiet chorus of approval. His work here is now truly finished. He shoulders his bag of tools, which now feels significantly lighter than it did when it was full of raw potential. He takes one last, long look at the magnificent wall of spirits, fixing the image in his mind. Then, with a deep sense of peace and finality, he turns his back on his creation and walks towards the low, dark passage that will lead him back to the world of the living. He does not look back. The ritual is closed. The spirits are now at home in the rock, and he must leave them to their silent, eternal watch. He takes his first steps out of the great sanctuary, his small, solitary flame bobbing in the darkness, leaving the masterpiece behind in the profound and sacred silence of the deep earth. The journey back through the deep, silent passages of the cave is a different experience from the journey in. The path is the same, a mirror image of the one he took hours before, but Cale himself has changed. The heavy weight of anticipation and the nervous energy of the apprentice have been replaced by the quiet, bone-deep weariness of the artist who has poured his spirit into his work. The darkness no longer feels like a presence to be tested against, but like a familiar, protective blanket. He moves with a steady, unhurried pace, his single lamp casting a familiar, rhythmic dance of light and shadow on the ancient stone walls. He arrives once more at the base of the steep, crystalline climb. The passage of the frozen waterfall and the ancient sketches. On the way in, this place had been a test of his strength and a humbling reminder of the masters who came before him. Now, as he descends, it feels like a familiar gallery, a silent community of his peers. He shines his light on the faint, scratched outlines of the bison and the ibex, and he now sees them with a new understanding. He sees the skill in a single, confident line, the deep knowledge of animal anatomy, the spark of life captured in the rock. He feels a quiet kinship with the long-dead hands that made these marks. He is no longer just an admirer of their work. He is one of them. He has added his own voice to this great silent conversation that spans countless generations. He navigates his way back to the great echoing chamber, the cave's resonant voice. He does not stop to play the stone chimes this time. The spirits of the place have been awoken and honored, and now is a time for quiet passage. Yet as he walks across the vast floor, the scuff of his own footsteps creates a soft, percussive whisper that rebounds from the unseen walls, a gentle, rhythmic applause from the darkness itself. He feels a sense of profound peace, of being in harmony with this ancient and powerful place. The cave had tested him, and he had proven himself worthy. It had accepted his offering, and now it was letting him go. He reaches the narrow fissure, the stone birth canal that had caused him such anxiety on his way in. He approaches it now without fear. Pushing his bag of tools through first, he turns his body and enters the tight, smooth passage. This time the pressure of the rock does not feel like a threat, but like a final firm embrace from the earth. He wriggles through with a practiced efficiency, his movements sure and calm. He emerges on the other side feeling not as if he has escaped a trap, but as if he has been gently released from a sacred womb. The final test is passed, and the path to the world above is now clear. He must cross the subterranean river one last time. He stands at the edge of the black, silent water, the memory of its biting cold still fresh in his mind. But now he sees it differently. On his journey in, the river was an obstacle, a barrier between him and his purpose. Now it is a boundary, a place of cleansing. He takes a breath and steps into the water, and while the shock of the cold is just as intense, his reaction to it is not one of resistance, but of acceptance. He wades through the strong, invisible current, icy water washing the sweat and fatigue of his long ritual from his body. It is a final, purifying immersion, a cleansing of the spirit before he returns to the world of the living. As he emerges, dripping and shivering on the final bank, he feels lighter, as if he has left the weight of the spirit world behind in the water. As he continues through the last wider passages, he begins to notice the first subtle signs of the world above. He feels a faint, almost imperceptible draft of air on his cheek, the first movement of air he has felt in many hours. And with it comes a new scent. It is no longer just the clean mineral smell of the deep cave. It is the faint, unmistakable fragrance of damp moss, of wet pine needles, and of the cold, clean air of the night. The cave is beginning to exhale, and its breath is the breath of the living world. The silence, too, begins to change, is no longer absolute. He can hear a faint, low murmur, a sound so subtle he cannot at first identify it. But as he walks on, it grows stronger, and he recognizes it as the distant sound of the wind, whispering over the mouth of the cave far ahead. The world is waiting for him, reflects as he walks on the images he has left behind. He sees them in his mind's eye, a permanent and powerful presence in the eternal darkness. He knows that what he has done is more than just make pictures. He has fed the spirits. He has strengthened the invisible bonds that tie his people to the herds that give them life. He has honored the ancestors and ensured that their sacred tradition continues. He feels the weight of this new responsibility. He is Kale, the painter, a keeper of the sacred flame. The darkness ahead is no longer uniform. He sees a change in its quality, a shift from the absolute black of the deep cave to a softer, paler shade of gray. It is not the light of his lamp, but a different kind of light. It is the first, faint hint of the approaching dawn. His long night in the earth is almost over. He walks towards that pale gray light, his heart steady, his spirit calm and full. He has been to the spirit world and back, and now he is about to be reborn into the world of the sun. Kale moves through the final familiar passages of the cave, the ones that serve as an occasional shelter for his clan. The air here is now sharply cold, carrying the clean, biting scent of the pre-dawn world. The silence is no longer absolute. It is a tapestry woven with the low moan of the wind outside and the distant echoing drip of water from the antechamber. He walks past the soot-stained walls and the smooth, worn floor, space that represents the boundary between the mundane and the sacred. On his way in, this passage had felt like a final outpost of the human world. Now, it feels like a welcome antechamber, a place of transition, gently guiding him back to his life. He reaches the narrow fissure at the base of the cliff, the hidden mouth of the great cave. From within the deep darkness, the opening is a pale, vertical silhouette against the slightly less profound darkness of the night. It is the color of a faint bruise, a soft grape purple that promises the coming of the sun. He takes a moment at this threshold, this membrane between his two worlds. He feels a quiet sense of gratitude for the sanctuary that has sheltered him and accepted his offering. He then squeezes through the opening one last time and stands upright in the open air. The sensation is overwhelming, a shock to his system. After so many hours in the enclosed, still, and silent world of the cave, the sheer immensity of the open space is dizzying. The vast, arching dome of the sky feels infinite. A cold, sharp wind, alive and smelling of frost and distant pine forests, rushes to meet him, whipping his hair and clothes and making his eyes water. It feels incredibly beautifully alive. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the clean, cold air of the living world. The sky above is no longer the brilliant, hard black of the deep night, but is softening into the deep indigos and purples of the moment just before dawn. In the east, a faint, pale line of pink has begun to glow behind the dark silhouette of the distant hills. He begins the long walk back to his camp, and he sees the world with new eyes. The landscape he crossed in darkness is now revealed in the soft, ethereal light of dawn. A thick layer of frost coats the dry yellow grasses of the steppe, making the entire world glitter as if it were dusted with crushed crystals. Every stone and every hardy shrub casts a long blue shadow. He sees the delicate, intricate tracks of a snowshoe hare that has passed in the night, a perfect, silent story written in the frost. He sees the steam rising from the dark, flowing water of the river. Having spent hours in the monochrome world of the cave, with its palette of red, black, and yellow, the subtle colors of the waking world, the deep green of the pines, the soft gray of the lichen on the rocks, the impossible, delicate violet of the sky, seem almost unbearably beautiful. His senses, sharpened by the deprivation of the cave, are now wide open, and he feels a profound connection to the beauty of this world, a beauty that feels both new and intimately familiar. As the sun rises higher, its first direct rays strike the tops of the ridges, painting them a brilliant, fiery orange. The world is waking up. He hears the first bird song, the clear, fluting call of a song thrush, a sound that seems to fill the entire silent valley. He sees the distant forms of a herd of reindeer, their breath smoking in the cold air as they paw at the frosty ground for lichen. He watches them for a long time, not as a hunter, but as a painter. He observes the precise curve of their antlers, the way the light catches on their thick, warm fur, the subtle gestures of their movements. He is gathering images, gathering understanding. His work as an artist never truly finished. Finally, he crests a familiar ridge, and he sees his home. The encampment lies below him in the valley, a small, comforting cluster of shelters. A thin, steady plume of smoke rises from the central hearth, a pale gray line connecting the earth to the sky. It is a symbol of community, of warmth, of his people. It is the reason for his long, cold journey. He feels a quiet surge of love for his clan, for the simple, shared life they lead. He has been on a solitary journey, but his purpose was never solitary. It was for them. He enters the camp quietly. The day's life is just beginning. A few figures are stirring, tending to the fire, fetching water from the river. Most are still asleep in the warmth of their shelters. His return is not met with fanfare or celebration. It is a quiet, personal thing. He walks directly to the shaman's shelter. Burrow is sitting by his small fire, exactly as Kale left him, a still and patient presence. He looks up as Kale approaches, his ancient eyes searching the young man's face. Kale is exhausted, his face smudged with dirt and fatigue, his clothes still damp. But his eyes are clear and bright. He does not need to boast or to describe his work in detail. The shaman would not ask for such a thing. Kale simply meets the old man's gaze and says, in a quiet, steady voice, "It is done. The spirit of the great bull has a home." Burrow does not speak for a long time. He simply looks at Kale, and in that long, silent gaze, Kale feels a profound sense of understanding passing between them. The shaman is not looking at the tired boy who left the camp the night before. He is looking at the painter who has returned. He is seeing the new depth in Kale's eyes, the new weight of responsibility in his posture. He has seen this look before, in the eyes of the painters who came before Kale. Finally, Burrow gives a single, slow, deep nod. It is a gesture of immense approval, of acceptance, of acknowledgement. It says everything that needs to be said. Kale has fulfilled his duty. He has taken his place in the long, sacred line. Burrow gestures to a piece of roasted meat in a skin of fresh water. Kale sits by the fire, the warmth seeping back into his bones, and he eats. The familiar, comforting rhythm of daily life begins to envelop him. He is back in the world of men, but he carries the great, silent, sacred darkness of the cave deep within him now. His long day is over. It is time to rest. Kale sits by the fire, wrapped in a thick bearskin robe, the warmth seeping deep into his weary muscles. The piece of roasted bison he ate has settled in his stomach, a comforting anchor to the physical world. The sun is higher in the sky now, and the camp is alive with the gentle, familiar rhythms of a new day. Children are chasing each other with shrieks of laughter, their games weaving between the adults who are engaged in their own tasks. A group of women are scraping a large deer hide, their movements synchronized and efficient. A man is carefully straightening a spear shaft by the fire, his eyes narrowed in concentration. It is a world of simple, tangible things, a world of work and family, of life. To Kale, it all seems both perfectly familiar and strangely new. He watches it all as if from a slight distance, his mind still half immersed in the profound silence and the dancing shadows of the great cave. He feels the immense contrast between the two worlds he now inhabits. There is this world, the sunlit world of the clan, a world of fleeting moments of hunger and satisfaction, of laughter and struggle. And then there is the other world, the dark, silent, and eternal world of the stone, where the great spirit animals reside. He now understands that his purpose, his sacred duty as a painter, is to stand as a bridge between these two worlds, to ensure that the power and the blessings of the spirit world can flow into the fragile, everyday world of his people. He watches as the hunters gather, their spears in hand, preparing to set out for the day's hunt. They move with confidence and purpose. Cale knows that his work is connected to theirs in the most intimate way. The images he left on the wall are not just pictures to be admired. They are a form of spiritual technology, a vital tool for the clan's survival. By honoring the spirit of the great bull, he has renewed the ancient pact between the hunter and the hunted. He has given the hunter's spirits a focus, source of confidence and power that they will carry with them as they track the great herds across the steppe. He has ensured that when they take the life of an animal, it is done with respect and with the blessing of the spirits, ensuring that the herds will return, that the cycle of life will continue. He looks over at the children, their faces bright and alive in the morning sun. He sees their small hands, already learning to shape clay into the forms of animals, to scratch the shapes of bison and horses onto flat stones with a piece of charcoal. He knows that the story does not end with him. The need to create, the need to connect with the spirit world through images, is a deep and fundamental part of his people. One day, many, many winters from now, he will be the old man with clouded eyes sitting by the fire. He will look into the faces of these children, and he will choose one of them. He will choose the one with the quiet hands, the observant eyes, and the spirit that listens to the silence. He will take that child on the long, dark journey, and he will pass on the secrets of the craft, just as Burrow passed them on to him. The great chain of tradition will remain unbroken. The images he painted will endure deep in the earth long after his own bones have turned to dust. Generations he will never know will make the same pilgrimage into the darkness. And they will stand before his great bull and his galloping horses, and they will feel the same sense of awe and connection. His work is not for himself. It is a gift to the future. The warmth of the fire, the fullness of his belly, and the profound exhaustion from his long vigil finally begin to claim him. His eyelids grow heavy. Sounds of the camp, the laughter and the chipping of flint, begin to soften and recede. He pulls the heavy bearskin tighter around himself, curls up on the soft furs by the fire, and surrenders to the deep, dreamless sleep of a man who has completed a great and sacred work. His day is done. He has walked in the darkness and returned with a gift of light. And now, in the warmth of the sun, in the safety of his clan, he rests. Our story is now over. The fire in the camp has burned down to embers, and Cale is deep in a well-earned sleep. The spirits on the cave wall remain in their eternal silent darkness, a silent testament to a world that is long, long gone. It is time to let this ancient world fade away. Gently bring your awareness back from the distant past, back to the comfort and stillness of your own room. You have completed your own journey for the day. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to think about. All that remains is to allow your body to follow Kel's lead, to let go of all effort and to drift into a peaceful and restorative sleep. Rest well.